Hello, and welcome to our extended disc webinar. Today will be about 30 minutes, and our webinar topic today is leading your team more effectively using disc development tools. My name is Christina Bowser. I'm the Director of Training here at Extended Disc, and I'm the host for today. And joining me is my fellow trainer and my guest, Amy Lipinski. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, Christina. Happy to be here.
I love it too. So just a few housekeeping pointers. As with all of our webinars, we do record them and we'll post them where you can go back and review it, or feel free to share it with your coworkers. We love your questions. However, we can't take them live on air just because of time constraints. So we encourage you to put your questions in the question box, and we will follow up with you after the webinar is over. So Amy and I are really excited. We've been working really hard on this new tool. But before we talk about it, we're going to talk about just kind of what types of DISC tools are available for you as leaders and for you leading your teams. So today we're going to get ready to show you this one DISC tool. It's called Your Team Report Leading Your Team. What is it called again?
Leading Your Team Manager's Playbook.
Thank you. It's so long, sometimes I struggle with it. I apologize. So Amy, how is this team report different from our existing team reports?
What makes this report different is that it's really targeted to you as the manager and leader. And we understand that as managers and leaders, oftentimes you look like this character on the screen, right? You're juggling however many balls up into the air, whether it's project, people, different aspects of being a manager and leader, and also your personal lives in there as well. The additional layer of complexity is those behavioral styles of the individuals that you work with and that you lead. And so this report is really designed to help you as the manager lead your team more effectively. And we know that sometimes when we're juggling so many balls into the air, we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. And at Extended Disc, we want to make it simple. So we always bring it back to the 4 steps, our hallmark 4 steps to effective communication.
So just to kind of review the 4 steps, I know that a lot of you are very familiar with it, because what's great about this 4-step process is it's built into all of our materials. It's built into our assessments. It's built into our support materials. It's built into how we train and deliver DISC. And the simplicity of it is what makes it so powerful. So just in review, step 1 is understanding DISC styles. How are people similar and how are they different?
And our assumption for today's webinar is that you are already familiar with this step.
And then step 2 being, how do we become more self-aware, and not only of how we see ourselves, so that self-discovery piece, but how do others see our style?
And with that is used the individual assessments. And we'll also be talking about some of those individual assessments that are specific to leaders and managers.
And I think that's what really is one of the hallmarks of Extended DISC, is that we don't stop at step 2. Like, there are behavioral assessments that really are very powerful. They focus on your own self-discovery, but Extended DISC wants to take it one to 2 steps further, actually, 2 steps further. So step 3 being identifying the main DISC styles of others.
And we'll talk about some of the team assessment tools that we have available for us to really understand the DISC styles of others on our team. But our real goal is getting to step 4.
And step 4 being, how do we modify our behaviors appropriately to improve interactions?
And we're not trying to change anyone. We know that successful people come from all 4 of the DISC styles. What successful people have is that self-awareness and the ability to temporarily modify their DISC styles to improve interactions with others.
Yeah, and just another way to say that is, you're not broken. You are successful because of what you do and who you are. But if we can improve upon that, if we can make those temporary adjustments in specific situations, we can become more successful.
And oftentimes those adjustments are small.
Yeah,
they
like
don't take long.
We say seconds to even a minute,
right?
So let's go ahead and highlight some of those individual leadership tools, which again reflect back on that step 2. How do we become more self-aware of ourselves and how others see our style? So with these leadership DISC tools, we start with the individual standard assessment. Anybody can use this tool, whether you're a leader, a manager, a direct report. It is the standard template for which all our assessments are built on, and it can be used in any situation. In fact, what I tell people is, if you don't know what individual assessment to use, you are always good going with the standard individual assessment. And that's the one that the majority of us are familiar with. We also have what we call the manager's assessment. The manager's assessment takes that individual assessment, meaning we identify your DISC style, but then we add in the management components, which we typically define as more the day-to-day style of leadership. And then we also have what we call the leadership assessment. So the leadership assessment encompasses the manager's assessment, but it also adds in that broad range future focus aspect of leadership. So what's great about it is, you essentially started off with the individual assessment, but now you're going into a manager's role, or one of your employees is. You don't have to ask them to take another questionnaire again. You can just go back and reorder those same results into a manager's assessment or a leadership assessment. So Amy, these are just some of the individual reports. We have many, many more, but these are the ones that we just wanted to highlight relating to leaderships. So let's go ahead and now talk about the team reports that we have available for leaders as well.
Right. And one thing that I just want to point out too, Christina, is the reason we start with the individual reports is because as leaders, and we know from Daniel Goleman's work in emotional intelligence as well, it all starts with that personal self-awareness. And so we need to be able to lead ourselves as managers and leaders and have that personal awareness before we can take that next step of leading others. So when we look at the team assessment tools that are available, we have the team report and then the team development report, which has some strategic questions targeted at the team members and the individuals. And then what we'll be highlighting today is the My Team Report Manager's Playbook. And again, like Christina had mentioned, the great thing about the extended DISC reports is that it just requires the one questionnaire with valid results. You don't need to retake the assessment to run these reports. And there is no additional charge when you go back in and run any of these reports. It's all based from the data from the one questionnaire.
Yeah, and I always say the questionnaire itself is really designed to identify your DISC profile. And once we know what your DISC profile is, we can apply it in different contexts, as you've seen here in leadership. You can do it in sales, you can do it in work pairs, you could do it in teams. So what is the My Team Report Manager's Playbook? It is a team report that is specifically designed for the manager. It's designed to help the manager lead his or her team more effectively, and it does it by combining the results of the team members' individual assessments. So Amy, let's talk about what I can't even say it. What makes it different from the other standard team reports we were talking about?
Right. So one of the main differences is that this report is designed specifically for the manager to see and use. It's not designed for the team to see. So really, it's a template. Another way that it's different is that the managers have to put in work with this report. It doesn't just simply provide data and information, but it's really providing a template And the managers are writing the playbook that requires them to put more thought, reflection, and work into the tool itself. So when we look at the tool and when we think about creating a playbook, one of the logical first steps is to identify the primary goals. And because this is an extended DISC assessment, we want managers to think about the behaviors that are needed in order to achieve those goals.
All right. So that's just kind of, as we say, as we're highlighting, as we go through, Amy and I go through these different areas of the report, we're not going to hit upon all of them. We just wanted to highlight some of them because we know that, as Amy said, this is a playbook. This isn't something that is a checklist. So you're going to go through as a coach or as a manager and pick out the ones that seem to resonate with you at this point in time, specifically to your team. So another section that once we have looked at or revisited our team goals, it's a good idea to get an overall picture of your team. And you can use the team at a glance map to do that. And there's a simple way to glean information from this map. Do you want to talk about it, Amy?
Absolutely. I think it's similar to many of our assessments. And the coaching and guidance that we typically give is simply break the model into its half, looking at the two axes. So first, being able to identify, is your team more task-oriented or are they more people-oriented? And then looking at the next axis, is your team more on the active side or are they more reserved? And then we can take that information and we have some specific questions to help us look then at your team's style and the impact that that style may have on achieving your goals. One of the most popular questions we get asked at Extended DISC is, what is the best style for a team? Do you need all 4 of the DISC quadrants on a team to be successful? And we suggest that you don't need all 4 of the quadrants in order to be successful. It really depends on what the goals of the team are. What are you looking to achieve, and what are those behaviors needed to achieve those goals? Another section of the report is matching strengths to responsibilities. And we recommend printing out this template for each individual on your team. And it really takes the information and it reviews each team member's DISC profile. It walks you through identifying what their strengths are and then identifying those key responsibilities that are required for their job role. And then being able to match those strengths to the responsibilities. Is there a match? Is there an adjustment that is needed? It's important to remember that when we're looking at behavioral styles, it does not account for a team member's experience, skills, attitudes, and values.
So just to reiterate, Amy, this is a template that there's just one template in the report, and we're asking people to print it out for each team member.
Correct.
Okay. So there's another section of the report. We call it How Similar and Different Are Your Team Members' Styles and Your Style. Do you want to talk about that as well, Amy?
Absolutely. So when we look at this page, we recommend that you circle or highlight the descriptors that are similar and different. So this page brings us from the diamond and the graph view, and now it gives descriptors and words around those styles. So we would have you circle or highlight those words that are similar or different. And think about, are you using these behaviors? And there is another page then that will walk you through start, stop, and continue. A very common manager leadership practice, right? Identifying those behaviors that are most comfortable, which are more challenging, what do you need to start, stop, or continue to do with your employees? And we have these pages in several areas within the report. So it's around how similar and different is your leadership style. There's also one around your employees' ideas of what their ideal supervisor is or would be, and being able to match then your own style as a leader and manager to their ideal supervisor. There's also a page like this for what motivates your employees. And you can compare that as a manager and leader to your own behavioral style. And are you doing the things that will help motivate? Are you having those behavioral motivators with your employees? What do you need to start, stop, or continue to do? And we also have one for their communication style.
I think what's important about the start, stop, and continue action plan sheets is to keep it as simple as possible. When we're telling you what are you going to start doing, it might be something as simple as slowing down or putting it in writing, and then give yourself kudos in terms of what 3 things are you continuing to do that your employee responds positively to. They feel more motivated when you're doing it. Continue to do it. So it's, a lot of this we say is you're already doing so much of it. You wouldn't be in a leadership role if you weren't able to make conscious adjustments. And as we say over and over with DISC, we tell people DISC is something that we already do. We know we have a good that sense of self-awareness about ourselves. We know that we need to adjust. But what DISC tells us is we need to constantly do it. We need to practice it and we need to be aware of it. And that's kind of where we get into trouble.
Absolutely. And I think that it gives us that opportunity to see in putting words, it gives us communication tools of what we can do. We don't want to overcomplicate it. So, like Christina had said, picking out things that are simple. What are you already continuing to do? The idea around these action plans is not to make them complicated, not to make them something that you are unable to achieve. We want to pick out the things that are easily achievable so that you have immediate success and you can see the improvement in the interaction and how you lead your team and the individual members on your team. So don't overcomplicate it when you think about the action plans. Remember, the modifications for step 4 just need to be something temporary. We're not trying to change you. We're not saying you're broken or you need to be fixed. We're looking at small modifications, something that you can raise your conscious awareness around to make those changes and improve those interactions and lead your team more effectively.
Thank you, Amy. So now that we've just highlighted a few sections of the My Team Report Manager's Playbook, we just wanted you to kind of walk away with just a very practical tip. So here you can see we have a poster, and it's actually hanging in our wall here in our office. It's the extended disc diamond in a poster size. I mean, we have these, but you can just draw one of your own, where you actually plot your team members. And it is a great reinforcement tool for you as the manager to remember to adjust, that each of your team members has their own unique DISC style. And so thereby they have different ways of being motivated, being managed, being coached. So the other great tip that, it was brought up to us by our clients themselves, because our clients are wonderful, it sends a clear message. It's telling people not only that, number one, I as a manager am trying to make this effort to make these adjustments, but it has value. It is important to me as a manager. And we know that our impact on our employees is huge. People don't tend to leave organizations. They tend to leave their managers. So if we give this value, that clear message to our employee is we better understand that DISC is useful and we better put it into use.
And like we said in the beginning of the webinar as well, we understand you are juggling many things. So putting this up in your office as a visual reminder, when you're busy juggling projects, different people, it's an easy way to simplify and look at where your employees are ball on the diamond. What are some of those modifications you can make? Slow down, speed up, make some small talk, get to the task. Those are simple things that we can do. And having that poster in our office, we have them in our offices too, is that simple reminder as we're interacting with our employees throughout the day, what type of adjustments we can make.
Yeah, and I do want to say, when we say simple, it doesn't always mean easy. So maybe slowing down is simple. However, if you're a style that likes to move very quickly, it's not always easy. So it's a conscious reminder that you might even have to practice that.
Thank you, Christina. That's a great point.
All right. So hopefully we've, as I said, given you a few highlights of our brand new report that Amy and I have worked on. Amy, any last kind of final wrap-up thoughts?
So I think in summary, when we think about this new report, it's not just an informational tool. It really is a workbook. It's a playbook that the manager is actively involved in. It's going to take work. They have questions to answer. They need to process statements. They need to reflect. And most importantly, they need to practice. They need to practice those action plans. So it's not a report that you run and you think, great, I have all the answers, to how to lead my team more effectively. When you run this report, plan on putting some work into it. It doesn't all have to be done at once. That's the great thing about this tool, is that it has flexibility. You can personalize it to you and focus on the sections that resonate most with you.
And I think also managers have asked this question of us. Well, I lead multiple teams. Again, this is a report designed for each of those teams. So you might want to run a report for each unique team that you have. The other thing is, remember, this is a great tool for you as a manager. As Amy said, it's a playbook for the manager. The manager has to put in the work. But we highly recommend, if you have a coach or a consultant, they can help you further facilitate the process and help you put those steps into place. So thank you, Amy, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Christina.
I know Amy and I will be actually back in July. We're going to take a little break. We're going on vacation. But our next webinar is going to be called D Styles, Am I Winning? Ties really well with a D style, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And we'll talk all about their competitive nature and their desire for power and control and to always be on top.
And what makes them successful at it. And that will be coming up on Wednesday, July 18th from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're at Extended Disc 281-298-6073, and we have our recordings of our webinars, as well as blogs, as well as additional information on our public website, www.extendeddisc.org. Thank you, Amy, and thank you guys all for joining us today. My name is Christina, and hopefully we'll talk to you guys again soon.